Shalom, shalom. This is Yermiyah, YOSHSHAALIA Benyahrael, and this is Real Talk, and this is part 3, final video of marriage and health. I want to read from the book of Maccabees 4, and verse chapter 5. Maccabees 4, chapter 5. And I just want to read about how our people who follow the laws and statutes and commandments of the Most High back in the time when they were living in the land of their enemies, and how they obeyed the laws unto death, that they would not eat foods that are defiled. You have a lot of teachers out there in this community that are teaching our people that it's okay to eat meat, and that those of us who are vegans are high-minded or are looking down on those who eat meat. Well, if the meat industry are feeding the cows the beef products that we use, and they're feeding these cows meat, and they're feeding them meat that could be from any animal, pig, horse, dog, rat, cat, whatever, and they're feeding this to the cows, and then they carve these animals up and process these animals for meat and give it to the stores, and as consumers we buy them, then we are defiling ourselves from eating the animal that no longer chews the cud. On top of that, and in addition to that, China in 2011 started using this adjective on top of pork meat to turn pork into beef. Look it up on Google. When you watch a documentary called Frankenstein, you will see that since 1930 and 1940, they were feeding cattle meat. There's very few grass-fed cattle that they have out here that is imported or that's homegrown. And anything that China is importing as far as meat is bootleg. You know it. They bootleg everything. So if you buy meat from Walmart, 9 times out of 10, because China loves to save money and they have successfully turned pork into beef, you're buying pork meat and don't even know it. They're using silicone inside beef as well, which is banned in all other countries because it's toxin. So how can you as a moray, as a priest, teach your people to eat meat? The only time that anyone should eat meat is during Passover. And that should be a yearling without spot and blemish, coming from a mother who was grass-fed, and the yearling also was raised up on that milk that from a grass-fed mother and is grass-fed before you slaughter it and use it for our feast days, which is called Passover or Passover. So I'm going to read out of this Maccabees 4, chapter 5. The tyrant Antiochus, sitting in state with his counselors on a certain high place, and with his armed soldiers standing about him, ordered the guards to seize each and every Hebrew and to compel them to eat pork and food sacrificed to idols. If any were not willing to eat defiling food, they were to be broken on the wheel and killed. And when many persons had been rounded up, one man, Eleazar by name, leader of the flock, was brought before the king. He was a man of priestly family, learned in the law, advanced in age, and known to many in the tyrant's court because of his philosophy. When Antiochus saw him, he said, "Before I begin to torture you, old man, I would advise you to save yourself by eating pork. For I respect your age and your gray hair. Although you have had them for so long a time, it does not seem me that you are a philosopher when you observe the religion of the Hebrews. Why, when nature has granted it to us, should you are hard eating the very excellent meat of this animal? It is senseless not to enjoy delicious things that are not shameful, and wrong to spurn the gift of nature. it seems to me that you will do something even more senseless if, by holding a vain opinion concerning truth, you continue to despise me to your own hurt. Will you not awaken from your foolish philosophy, dispel your futile reasoning, adopt a mind appropriate to your years, philosophize according to the truth of what is beneficial, and have compassion on your old age by honoring my humane advice? For consider this, that if there is some power watching over this religion of yours, it will excuse you from transgressions that arise out of compulsion. When the tyrant urged him in this fashion to eat meat unlawfully, Eleazar asked to have a word. When he had received permission to speak, he began to address the people as follows: We, O Antiochs, who have been persuaded to govern our lives by the divine law, that there is no compulsion more powerful than our obedience to the law. Therefore, we consider that we should not transgress it in any respect, even if, as you suppose, our law were not truly divine, and we had wrongly held it to be divine. Not even so would it be right for us to invalidate our reputation for piety. Therefore, do you not suppose that it would be a petty sin if we were to eat defiling food? To transgress the law in matters, either small or great, is of equal seriousness. For in either case, the law is equally despised. You scoff at our philosophy as though living by it were irrational. By living by it was very irrational. But it teaches us self-control, so that we master all pleasure and desire, and it also trains us in courage, that we endure all suffering willingly. It instructs us in justice, so that in all our dealings we act impartially, and it teaches us piety, so that we proper reverence, we worship the only real Elohim. Therefore, we do not eat defiling food, for since we believe that the law was established by Yahweh, we know that in the nature of things, the creator of the world, in giving us the law, has shown sympathy towards us. He has permitted us to eat what will be most suitable for our lives, but he has forbidden us to eat meat that would be contrary to this. So, and you can read this yourself in Maccabees 4, starting at chapter 5. And I stopped on verse, the ending of, I stopped on 27. So, what we see here is our ancestors were once again being forced to eat things that would defile them. In the book of Judah, one of the men explained to the captain, the general, that these people that lived in the mountain who refused to come down and honor you and obey you are the children of the Chaldeans, and that they follow the Elohim of heaven, and that they came out of the land of the Chaldeans to follow after the king of heaven, and advised the general that do not go against these people if these people are keeping the laws of their Elohim. But if they are not keeping the laws of their Elohim, then you can strike them. But if you go after them while they're keeping the laws of Elohim, then the same thing that happened in Egypt are going to fall on you. Because Egypt is an example to the whole world what happens when you go against Yahweh's children. Well, actually, go against the inheritance that was given unto Yahusha by Yahweh, Abba Yahweh. So, what we're saying this is, right now, we are living in a time like it was of Antioch. If China which is the biggest importer of goods into this country, has successfully transformed pork meat into beef meat, then a lot of the beef that we're eating or receiving from China is pork. Because the reason why they did it is to save money, because beef was so expensive. So why would they say, and you know beef is real cheap now. It ain't like when it was back in the day when you bought a sirloin steak or you bought a beef steak, how expensive it was back then. It's very cheap. That's because it's probably 9 times out of 10 pork that looks like beef, and you don't know it. Because these Chinese have successfully used an agent to turn pork into beef. It's the flavoring that they're using. Also, you have to look at the fact that a lot of these meat industries are feeding the cows dead carcasses of other animals that died on their farms or on their meat plants, and grind them up and put them inside the feed and gave it to the cows, thus changing the cows from being from chewing a cud to now chewing meat, making them carnivores. So you can't get away with that, and you can't justify going against the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High when it comes to eating foods that are defiled. You can't tell me, no Hebrew Israelite can tell me that when they walk into a supermarket, that they know that the meat they're eating is actually beef. That they know that the animal that meat came from is grass-fed. No one can tell me that. Not one person can tell me that, unless you work in the place where you got your meat from and you raise those animals yourself. So to live in a country that you know strategically planted other nationalities around you so that they can defile you with their Chinese stores and their pizzerias and their supermarkets and all the foods from the Polish and the Khazars and the Chinese and the Koreans with all their rat meat, dog meat, cat meat, pig meat that they're feeding our people. They knew by putting these people in our areas that they will defile us. That was one of the reasons why the so-called Negro leaders got us to protest and to boycott other stores so that we can go into their stores and buy food from them. If we would have stayed amongst our own, we would have knew not to eat their foods, and we would have had the laws, because way back then they still was following the ways of Israel. Restraining from eating pork, restraining from eating a lot of things. My father, which had me at 62 years old, his father had a pig farm but never ate pig. And he was taught through his mother, who came from the West Indies, who came over with my grandfather in her stomach. She and her family were taught never to eat pork. So it was a custom amongst our people way back in the 1800s, because my father was born between 1903 and 1910. And he knew not to eat pork, nor did he allow pork in our home. So I was raised up not to eat pork until I went into other relatives' homes and started eating as a kid. But I stopped eating it when I was 16. But I know that you can't tell me that the local supermarkets that you go to, you can't tell me what kind of meat you're really eating. You don't know if it's human. You know that they use aborted fetuses and use them as adjectives inside of certain foods. You got all kind of information on that. So what makes you think that they're not feeding you pork and passing off as beef? And then you got these so-called Israelite teachers teaching that it's okay to eat it. Just pray over it. I mean, you're going off. And then again, we got to learn everything about health. Because we are melanated people, so things that melanated people should be eating and should be consuming, we need to be indulging in. If the food industry is geared to cutting costs and also geared to putting inferior foods in our community to help keep us defiled, then why should we be indulging in it? If the clothing industry is producing clothing material that are full of synthetic fibers and chemicals that seep into our skin and causes cancer and all types of health problems, along with keeping us defiled and keeping our temple defiled, because we wear the clothes, we must learn these things as well and abandon wearing these clothes, thus taking our money back from these industries, these clothing industries, and saving our lives and keeping ourselves healthy. If being married to the wrong woman or to the wrong man will cause stress, which causes hypertension, which causes heart disease, which causes alcoholism, drug abuse, over excessive eating, under eating, and every type of other disorder that can come from being stressed in a stressful marriage or union, then we must look at those things as well. And these are the 3 or 4 major foundations we need to be building on as YOSHSHAALIA. We need to be building on the laws that we must do here in Babylon and keep, the laws that we cannot do in Babylon and keep, and wearing our own clothes and apparel that was given unto us, eating the foods that will keep us clean and keep us healthy, like Daniel demonstrated in Daniel chapter 1, 9 through 12. By being a vegan, Daniel was much healthier and much better looking in appearance after 10 days. Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12. Genesis chapter 1, 29 talks about what was given to us as food with seeds. Also, we read in Deuteronomy chapter 30, it tells us that we are to return back to the laws, statutes, commandments that was given unto us and keep these laws. And one of the laws is the dietary laws given to us in Leviticus. So how can we keep on going on and saying that it's okay to just pray over your food and you know, to each his own when it comes to eating meat, because everything is not for everybody? Let me tell you something. If you are in this truth and you teaching this truth, then when it says this, you need to understand this. Chapter 30, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. Now it shall come to pass when all these come upon you, the blessings and curses. What are the curses that are upon us? Diseases. Why we have these diseases? Because we're eating defiled food. Because we broke the laws and commandments concerning the dietary laws. The blessings and curses which I have set before you, and you call them to mind among all the nations where the Master, your Elohim, drives you, and you return to the Master, your Elohim, and obey his voice according to all, not some, but according to all that I command you today. Today was the day he was standing in front of the Mount Horeb, giving them the laws, statutes, commandments that he gave to them. You and your children, with all your heart and with all your soul, that the Master, your Elohim, will bring you back from your captivity and have compassion on you and gather you again from all the nations where the Master, your Elohim, has scattered you. If any of you are driven out to the further parts of under heaven, from there the Master, your Elohim, will gather you. And from there he will bring you, then the Master, your Elohim, will bring you to the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. He will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers, and the Master, your Elohim, will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants to love the Master, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may live. Also, the Master, your Elohim, will put all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, who persecute you, and you will again obey the voice of the Master and do all his commandments, which I command you today. The Master, your Elohim, will make you abound in all the works, in all the works of your hand, in the fruit of your body, in the increase of your livestock, and in the produce of your land of good. For the Master will again rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers, if you obey the voice of the Master, your Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in the book of the law, and if you turn to the Master your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. So what was written in the book of the law, he said, while we are in our captivity, he's going to bring us out again out of the land of our captivity. If we keep these laws, statutes, commandments, we go back and repent for our ways while we're in the land of our captivity, then he will release us from our captivity. A lot of the ops are teaching us that we can do certain things that are not permitted in the law. And also with this law, for those of us who want to keep every feast day and every thing that was kept during the ancient time, the law specifically tells us that there's certain things that must only be kept in Jerusalem. So if we do not keep these certain things in Jerusalem, as it is told to us, we're breaking the law by keeping them in places where they're not supposed to be kept. We know that Passover can be kept outside of Jerusalem because it is told to us that if we're on a long journey or we are on a pilgrimage and Passover comes, then we can keep that feast days. It was other feast days that if we were on a long journey, we could keep the feast days. Even when it came to Passover, it told us that if we couldn't afford to buy the sheep, we could buy cattle or whatever we could afford for meat to eat on Passover. So we know this. And we understand this. So you're breaking the laws by keeping every feast day that should not be kept. You're breaking the law by paying tithes that's only supposed to go to the Levitical house only. These are the reasons why we are still going through a lot of problems. We must keep our temple clean. Once you start eating meat and live a vegan life, your spiritual life will grow where you will be able to understand these things that I just said out of my mouth, and you will be able to apply them in your life. You'll be able to marry a woman that will bring you life, not death. You'll be able to be married to a husband that will bring you life and not death. You'll be able to have a family that will be governed and ordered under the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, and have a blessed family and be blessed by the Most High. You will be blessed in your body, blessed in your home, and blessed in everything that you do when you keep these commandments to its fullness with all your heart and all your soul. These are not burdensome. But when people say that, why deny eating things that are good? Because the meat that you're eating is not good. It is contaminated. The animal it came from was no longer chewing the cud. The animal it came from eat meat. And if they do that with the beef, they're probably doing it with the lambs, and they're probably doing it with everything else, the goats, and they're doing it with the chickens too. They feed the chickens meat and hormone shots. So you have no excuse to eat things that are defiled, that allowed you. You just had your ancestors show you that they wouldn't even eat meat that was defiled and lost their lives on the wheel. The wheel pulled their bodies apart, ripped their skin off of them. And they did it willingly, loving this to die to keep these laws. And yet you got you ox teaching us differently. We are supposed to be just like we was in the time when we was in the first Egypt, and how we left out and got the laws of preparing ourselves. We prepared ourselves before we left in Egypt with Passover and went on out, and while we were inside of the wilderness, we purified ourselves even more with the Ruach teaching us the laws. The laws were given to us by the Most High through Moses. So we're going to get the same thing when we leave up out of here. Those who do leave up out of here. Those who do not leave up out of here will be subject to taking the RFID chip, will be subject to eat food that are defiled, will be subject to all type of brutality, everything. So in order for you to be able to leave up out of here, you must restrain from eating things that's going to block the spiritual knowledge that will teach you how to motivate in these last day times, to be humble as a dove and be wise as a serpent. A serpent knows how to gravitate on rocks and climb up hills the way it moves on rocks, on the surface of a rock. We have to know how to gravitate and use strategy. We got to learn that they know who we are. That's why they surround us with all these different type of nationalities in our communities. That's why they feed us the food that they feed us in the communities that are defiled, to keep us from being close to the Most High. So the Ruach won't dwell on us, so we won't call on the Most High. That's why we got all these different preachers and churches and religions all around us to keep us defiled and keep the Most High angry with us. That's why you got all these different camps, Israelite camps, that are just like the branches from the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church started, then you had the Lutheran, the Baptist, the Pentecostal, and all these other Seventh-day Adventists, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, all them. The same way you got all these different Israelite camps teaching different doctrines, teaching that you can keep certain traditions of the church, all this stuff, that you can eat certain foods. Some camps are teaching that you can eat pork now, all that stuff. It's no different. But those of us who know the truth, we're not going to deal with that. I'm not a part of any camp. I'm a part of the body of YOSHSHAALIA. I am from the nation of YOSHSHAALIA, and I'm from the tribe of Yehuda. That is who I am. That is what I am. Yermiyah, YOSHSHAALIA, Benyahrael. Yermiyah, Israel, Benyahrael, son of Israel. That's who I am. That is what I am. I am Yermiyah, one who is sent by the Most High, Israel, son of Israel. So this is what you need to understand. This is what you need to learn. I'm watching the clock. I'm just going to go over this book real quick and real briefly. This is Herbal Medicine. And I'm going to deal with just showing you different types of remedies that come from eating the herbs and the nuts that we have. You know, like eating walnuts and pistachio nuts, and you know, using a parsley and using you know, what the Most High blessed us with, you know, as food, the real food that He gave us to eat. You know, walnut. The medicinal use of this is for inflammation of the skin and excessive perspiration. I'm just going to jump here and there. Onion. Medicinal use for onion is for loss of appetite. Wait a minute, make sure. Onion for loss of appetite, arthritis, cirrhosis, arthritis, cirrhosis, fevers and cold, cough and bronchitis, and hypertension. That's what you can use onions for. Chestnuts. Chestnuts can be used for eczema, for superficial and deep varicose veins, leg pains, hemorrhoids, pains before and during menstruation, rheumatism, cough remedies, arthritis and rheumatism. Just jumping around. Grape. Grapes is good for use in venomous diseases and blood circulation disorders. It's used for headaches. It's used for scabies, skin disease, gonorrhea, hemorrhoids, and vomiting. These are the fruits and veggies that we take for granted and not knowing the medicinal uses of them. Coconut palm. Coconut palm, good for diarrhea, inflammation of the mouth, increases performance capabilities, as well as helping with hepatitis. The Indians used it to help with diarrhea. Wait a minute, let me make sure that's the right one. I think I might get the wrong one. I'm sorry. That was coffee. The coconut palm has been used for healing wounds and skin infections. Internally, it is used for colds, inflammation of the throat, tooth decay. It is also used for coughs, bronchitis, and to stop hair from turning gray. That is coconut oil. coconut palm. It's going over different herbs and what they are used for. Different herbs what they're used for, so that you can understand that, you know, people plant these in their yard for a reason. Okay, aloe can be used for relief in the presence of anal and rectal problems. It's good for fungus disease. It's good for stomach tumors, constipation, colic, skin disease, and worm infestation and infections. Aloe. Avocados. You know, a lot of people like avocados. Is used for a natural cosmetic. Barley. Barley is used for, it's good for diarrhea, gastrics, and inflammatory bowel conditions. Basil. Basil is good for, medicinal use for basil is to help with when you're feeling feelings of fullness and flatulence, for stimulation of appetite and digestion. Beets. Beets are good for supportive therapy in diabetes and diseases of the liver and fatty liver. So beets are good for supportive therapy in diseases of the liver and fatty liver. The Indians use it for coughs and infections. Coughs and infections. So these are the many use of the herbal medicines. And we must understand that in this transition of knowing who we are as the nation of YOSHSHAALIA, as being of the tribes of Yasharal, being the descendants of Abraham through his grandson Yaqub, we must understand that we must go back to all of the knowledge that was given to us by our forefathers, going back to the original man that did not eat meat, and going back to our old ways of preserving our bodies. If eating meat will cause a problem to your pancreas, anything that causes a disturbance to your body is not good for you. It's not good for you, my ox and my codies. And anyone that teaches you that it's okay to indulge in eating such things that will cause stress on your pancreas, which will cause your immune system to slowly shut down, is teaching you either because they are working as agents or they are ignorant to the understanding what meat does to the body, does not understand that we were not designed to eat meat, does not understand that the reason why we was given the laws on meat is the same reason why we was given a king over Israel, over Yasharal, because the people wanted a king. So what did he do? Because the people wanted a king, like a father who has a child that always wants something, keep asking for things, even though he don't want to give it to him, but keep asking him, he give it to him. So when he gave us Saul as king, he gave us a king of our own people to be over us. But he did not initially want us to have a king, because Yahushua was our king. But because of our stiff neck and our wanting to be like other nations, he gave us a king. The reason why he gave us the dietary laws, breaking down the meats that were clean and unclean, is because of our stiff neck once again, of wanting to be like the other nations and indulge in eating flesh. And also because of sin that came into the world. So because Israel was been separated and go back to the old ways, which was being taught in the garden, Israel decided to go and follow after the other nations that was around them. So what did he do? Okay, since you want to eat meat so much, here is the animals that you can eat that are clean, and here are the animals that you should not eat. That's what he did. Same way Moses did when it came to divorce laws. Because they wanted to put their wives away so badly for every little thing, they gave in to us. See, we are like children. We always complaining and always wanting. And just like any child, a father wants to give their children what they ask for. And then a lot of times we give our children things that we know that won't benefit them to teach them a lesson. And that's what eating meat is doing, teaching us a lesson. He just gave us the meat that wouldn't harm us as bad as the other meat. But yet what do? We turn around and went after those things, the crustaceans and everything else. So with this transformation of learning who we are, learning what type of woman to marry, what type of husband should be marrying us, what type of foods we should be eating, and what type of clothes we should be eating. It should be the things that we should be focusing on, the laws that we should be keeping while we are in Babylon, the laws that we cannot keep while we're in Babylon, the foods that will benefit us the most. What examples we have in the Bible of those who are eating the foods that will benefit us the most? Daniel chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1. Putting on our royal apparel that does not have all these dyes made from chemicals, because we can make dye from plant life. Putting in plant life, living food, not putting in carcass in our body, dead bodies in our bodies that would decrowed and rotten, and which had maggots in them. Any animal or any human that died, as soon as it dies, the parasites that are dormant inside the skin come alive. So soon you consume that meat, you're consuming those parasites. And you can believe that the way man is today, they have been able to create parasites that can withstand some of that heat that we cooking. And a lot of times we don't cook our food the way we're supposed to cook it anyway. So them parasites get in our bodies and they start eating, and it poops while it's inside of us. That's where we get the fungus from. That's where we get the yeast from. Them parasites will go to bear from inside of you, from all the food that we're eating, and the foods that are not good for us. Eating a lot of foods that are not good for us, the parasites eat those Twinkies, those donuts, and all those sugar-filled food and unnatural adjectives that's inside the foods, all these preservatives that's inside our foods. We're eating food that are processed, and these maggots eat these foods that are processed. That's why you crave for them so much, because you're eating these cows that have been fed anything to fatten them up. And if you feed a pig, if you feed a cow pig meat, that DNA is going inside that cow, because they're not cooking the food to give it to them. It's going inside that cows. The blood is inside the cow's bowels. Those maggots that eat the food from inside the pig's bowels are now inside the cow bowels, causing them to desire the same food, and you're feeding them that food, and then it's inside their meat, inside their bloodstream, then it's inside the food that you eat inside your body. Now you craving all these different foods that you should not eat. Understand that this is a warfare. This is a warfare on us, and every which way but loose. This is something that they strategically learned way back. When you look in the book of Judah, you see when they were trying to get the people that was in the hills, and the man, the Moabite told the commander that these people were the children from the Chaldeans who left out and followed the Elohim of heaven. And when they were in Egypt, Egypt did them wrong, and he fought against Egypt and destroyed them. Now he told them, if you're going to go against these people, you can't go against them when they're doing right, because he's going to defend them. But if you catch them off guard while they're doing wrong, he's not going to defend them. And right now, why do you think we're not being defended? Why do you think we're dying? Because we're not living by the laws and commandments of the Most High to its fullness. All you different ops out there teaching these false doctrines, you agents, you are doing an injustice to your people. You're doing an injustice. I hope you got this understanding, this wisdom and knowledge. Marriage, you must be married to someone that loves you and follow the same thing you follow. You must eat the foods that are good for you. Become a vegan so that you can become more closer to the Most High spiritually, so your body won't be defiled. Stop buying clothes from these industries that are using heavy chemicals and artificial dyes. Start making your clothes, women, for your husbands and your children. You've been listening to Yermiyah, YOSHSHAALIA, Benyahrael, and this is Real Talk.